All right, John. So for the viewers that don't know, could you explain to them what HiiT is?
Okay, so it stands for high intensity interval training. What we're looking at is putting 100% of maximal effort into our repetitions or into our sets in short bursts of time.
All right, guys, good evening. Welcome to episode 2. I'm joined with John Felton again tonight. Today we're going to be discussing HiiT sessions. So for those of you that don't know, Crohns Colitis UK recently announced on their webpage talking about a recent study that basically condones HiiT training as a training style that may benefit people suffering from Crohn's and colitis. The study was done by Dr. Bottoms, and it's not even a joke. She's somebody who actually suffers from the disease herself and has made it her mission in life to essentially make life that little bit easier for Crohn's and colitis sufferers. So John, do you want to say hello?
Hello everyone, and another great Sunday actually after the Welsh win yesterday.
And an Irish win.
More to the point, yeah. But yeah, obviously we're going to discuss the part of the research and our ideas on HiiT training, because it kind of caught our attention, and we were speaking about it this week. It's a bit of a tough one, really. The training aspect and how much people should do. But yeah, we'll have a chat about it and see how things go.
I'm just bringing up the article now. Let's see, it's for the research. Okay, so it's a small trial. So they looked at, I think it was 36 people.
Yeah.
And they obviously split them down into equal groups. So they had one group doing moderate intensity, one group doing high intensity interval training, and a control group who just maintained their status quo.
Was it over a 6-week period? Wasn't it? It was 6 weeks. Was that the
12 weeks?
12 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, so the sessions basically for the moderate intensity was the 30 minutes continuous cycling at a moderate intensity. Yeah. The HiiT training one was 1 minute of vigorous or hard cycling, followed by 1 minute of easy cycling, and repeat that 10 times, which is very basic HiiT cycle.
Yeah.
So the study essentially supports using HiiT training as a form of exercise, whereas previously nobody was really recommending any form of exercise. Light to moderate was the most common, if any.
What really caught my attention is the fact that some patients or people that struggle with this illness were told to completely cease exercise. That may be best for them at that time, but are they getting the right message out to them? So people would take that verbatim, just cease exercise altogether, and not even think about picking that back up when in remission. Just basically, are they getting the right message out?
Yeah, I think that's true in a lot of cases. So I think the difficulty is that for people with Crohn's colitis like yourselves, there are so many specialists involved.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a lot of times you get conflicting information, or you'll put yourself in that trust cycle with a certain specialist because you've built that relationship, and the information they're giving you, they may not be coming from the best background.
Yeah.
Well, for example, my surgeon, whom I'm going to see next week again for my my regular colonoscopy.
Happy colonoscopy day.
Yeah, he told me whenever I had my first couple of surgeries that just you can eat whatever you want now. Literally 24 hours after my surgery, yet the stoma nurses and the nutritionist were like, "Whoa, right? Yeah. Liquid only for the first X amount of days, then test and adjust as you go, like just small things." So he was like,
"Just coming in, take them away."
Yeah, so smash in some Weetabix, mate. And I was like, "Oh." The consultant said I could have Weetabix, and she was like, "You shouldn't be saying that." You know what I mean? So I can imagine, in certain instances, and also as well, like both of us being from the military, again, another consultant from the NHS perspective had told me that I could return to a normal life and that you saw no reason why I couldn't deploy overseas.
Okay.
And then speaking to, obviously, occupational health within the military, they were like, yeah, he's got no business telling you that because he doesn't understand what you do overseas.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to the right people for the right advice. And like I said at the start, is sometimes we've got that many specialists involved within that care pathway. We might ask the wrong question to the wrong person, or the right question to the wrong person. Probably.
Exactly that. And I think because there's so much input, I think it all becomes a little bit, not so much misconstrued, but a little bit hazy as to what is the right answer. And essentially, I guess, a bit of a cop-out, there never really is a right answer of what's right for someone. And, you know, we're all different, and what works for one person may not work for another. So I think you've got to take in individuality, really. Listen to the consultants, obviously, because they do what they do. But when it comes to, I mean, my consultant, I'm not trying to, I know, obviously, fantastic job from what he's done. But you could probably tell he's not so much into his exercise. And he's not got Crohn's or colitis. But, you know, if I were to try and take exercise advice from him, take it with a pinch of salt. Understand, obviously, the recovery and the scar healing and so forth. But then to understand, for him to give me any advice on exercise, to be honest, he didn't even try going there because he understands the nature of my job anyway. But there's just so many different people that's going to have input through your illness, through your surgery, if surgery's the path you've unfortunately gone down. I think you've just got to take a little bit from each and just kind of work out what's best for you, really.
All right, John. So for the viewers that don't know, could you explain to them what HiiT is?
Okay, so it stands for high intensity interval training. What we're looking at is putting 100% of maximal effort into our repetitions or into our sets in short bursts of time. So, for example, if I was to sit on a watt bike, for example, it'd be, say, 30 seconds of work, maximal effort, with 30 seconds recovery, so 1-to-1 ratio. Then basically you're looking no more than 20 to 30 minutes because it's maximal effort. You're not going to be able to sustain that over a long period of time. That's why we keep the interval, the intensity in each of those intervals very, very, very high, so we can perform really, really powerful and very, very intense exercise within short bursts of time. It's fantastic for people, those that say that they haven't got time to train. You know, because you only have to set up 20 to 30 minutes or set aside 20 to 30 minutes to get a maximal effort session done. Conversely, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to recover than when compared to kind of long bouts of sustained low resistance training, if that makes sense. So if your recovery, you're looking anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. But again, that depends on how quick you can recover and your fitness levels and your training background previous to that. So yeah, it's a fantastic way of training. It saves time. It's maximal effort, so you know you're going to go balls out on this one. And it can be done anywhere. The good thing about it is you don't have to use resistance equipment. Most of the exercise we know are done body weight, so press up, squats, sprints, just all about. So you can do it anywhere without any equipment. So it's nice and cheap as well.
I think that's one of the beauties of it, is that it actually makes people realize how easy it can be to get a good workout in.
Absolutely.
And get your heart rate elevated. And like you just touched on, HiiT itself isn't typecast to just one thing. You can pretty much, it's a style of training as opposed to an actual exercise. So you can, form of training, so resistance training, cardiovascular training, body weight training. You can employ it in swimming, cycling, running. You can bring this style or type into all of those, because all you're doing effectively is ensuring that you're working at your near maximum capacity for a short space of time, i.e. 10 seconds, and then your recovery is going to be either equal to that, i.e. 10 seconds, or maybe 20 seconds. Again, depending on yourself.
I think one of the biggest ones that came out, obviously, the sort of about 10 years ago, the Tabata type training.
Yeah.
So that is high intensity training with the 20 seconds work, 10 seconds rest for the 8 sets. So that's traditionally how it's worked off, but that was actually developed in sprinting. But like I said, we've kind of taken that and then broke it down how we want to break it down and just use it across all different mediums of types of training. The important thing is with this really is for people to understand if you're doing high intensity training, it shouldn't be maximal lifts. It's maximal effort, as in your energy expenditure effort, but it's not going, let's put lots and lots of weight on a bar, for example, and do like lots of deadlifts. That's just not going to happen. It's very kind of low resistance, hence body weight. So no extra resistance on your body, but it's keeping the effort as maximal as you can without stress. Obviously stressing too much on the body with heavy resistance.
Yeah, recovery is the main thing, I think, for a lot of people, particularly guys suffering from chronic illnesses like Crohn's and colitis. 24 hours would be your minimum. If you read a couple of books, so you've got like Strength and Conditioning Essentials or Strength and Conditioning, they would suggest they don't really talk about HiiT training, but they talk about high intensity, which would be things like plyometric training. They would suggest that about 48 to 72 hours between those high intensity efforts. Again, this is completely down to you, the individual, and where your training age is at. I mean, like how current you are in training. If you're just starting out, you're going to struggle to do HiiT sessions probably more than once a week. So the common suggestion from places like Barbell School and Testosterone Nation would be for a novice to do one session of 30 to 40 minutes of HiiT training per week, and that will give you that sort of recovery time. And I think for people like ourselves that are just starting into exercise with chronic illness, that would probably be a good sort of target to aim for if you were thinking about trying it out. It's just like everything that we do when we're coming around to it with Crohn's and colitis is just trying it small, dipping the toe in before you chuck the whole body in, sort of idea. So you take a small dose, see how you go, and if it's for you, then you can start to increase that.
A good way of monitoring that, and especially with recovery, I mean, there's nothing going to give you more accuracy really than your heart rate. You know, it's always worth investing in, if you haven't already got one, is getting a heart rate monitor and understanding where it throughout the session. And generally, a lot of them now, like the Garmin's that I wear and stuff, will give you actually your recovery period depending on your heart rate and your exertion level in that session. It will generally give you a good 48 hours, say, recovery from doing such a high intensity level. But you know, you get up in the morning, and I know a lot of us can feel very depleted energy to start the day before we even got out of bed. So it's good to take your heart rate, understand where your base level is at, and then say, right, actually, do you know what? My heart rate's pretty sound today. I can actually, I can find some time to just get a high intensity session in, HiiT training in, and then just pay dividend then throughout the day through your heart rate monitor, and the next morning see if you're actually ready to perform that kind of exercise again.
So you've actually just been going through this process. So how have you adapted to returning to training? What sort of things have been made conscious to you as you return back to where you were from your surgery?
Okay, so as you know, it's quite obviously invasive surgery I've had again. So I've had the removal of my pouch now and back to a permanent ileostomy. So essentially, just getting a base level of conditioning together for me. That's kind of where I've been the last kind of month or so. I haven't really hit any high intensity training yet, because I don't think I'm quite ready for that. But what I am doing at the moment, whether I'm resistance training or doing any kind of low-level CV work, is listening to my body and how much I'm able to take. It's because I was rested for so long. Obviously, there's a lot that I'm going to lose in regards to fitness and in regards to strength. So therefore, take it as a jigsaw piece really that I'm going to start building back up again. I'm not just going to go think, well, I can actually go near the level where I was at before. I know for a fact that I've regressed so much that I need to find a good stable foundation to work from. So every day I'm obviously documenting the exercise that I'm doing, the intensity, the RPE, if of course you haven't got a heart rate monitor, which is your rate of perceived exertion, and understanding that this needs to be progressed slowly and not just go 100 miles per hour straight off the bat. I said I wake up in the morning, get a good kind of understanding how my body feels, get in to start rehab. We'll start at a very low level anyway, start bringing the body around. Generally there's some yoga or mobility. And then we'll go into our IP sessions, which will be my general conditioning. So it's a bit of all over body work in somewhere in the hypertrophic range, you know, because it's not very high resistance. It's taxing enough for me to kind of get the development out of. And then to basically see how I feel after that session and just keep documenting how I feel. So therefore, if I'd done a session on, say, Monday, and then by Tuesday I felt very fatigued, I wouldn't have to necessarily repeat what I've done on Monday. I would just take my time. I'll just change the session up to something very light, something I perceive very light, and that should give me enough recovery for the following day then to kind of push on again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think that's a great insight, because there's a lot of people out there, obviously on a daily basis, that are going through what you're going through right now, in terms of like having been at some level better physically than what they are currently, having just had the surgery. And it can be a struggle sometimes just to think like, well, where do I start? How do I get back up there? I'm like, I was in my 20s, I was the worst. Like I would have 2 or 3 weeks off, and to get back, I chucked myself straight into 3-a-days. And I was lucky that my legs and my body, generally speaking, would hold up and I wouldn't get an overtraining. But I was definitely in that overreaching phase before the end of the year. So I was continuously running the risk. I was just very lucky. So because I didn't get injured, I thought in my 20-year-old self, that's how you do it. It took a lot of time, a lot of education, and a lot of injuries from my mid-20s to my 30s to realize that maybe that might not be the best method of returning to sport.
I mean, your body more than any kind of technology is going to tell you how you're feeling and what you're able to do that day. Now, that's not to say you think, oh, I feel a little bit tired, I feel a little bit, you know, kind of exhausted, so I'm probably not going to do nothing today. It's like you said, just kind of dipping your toe in the water, see how it feels, start something, see how it feels, get into a session, say, do you know what, actually, I'm really not feeling it, but at least you've tried that day. Rather, it's about consistency, really. It's not about crash and burn, as we say. So not just going 100 miles per hour, smash it up as you would do with a HiiT session. Let's get in there, and then for you're recovering for 5-6 days, you know, and it's a week then before you can even do exercise again. It's not about that. We're saying 100% effort, yes, but it's being able to recover afterwards. But you've got to build up to these type of training modalities. It's not all about just getting 100%. This is where I was before. Surely my body will adapt straight away. It's not all about that. You've got to listen. You've literally got to listen to how your body feels and what it's telling you. And it's quite hard, actually. If you're new to training, it's quite hard to understand that, because like we've had plenty of patients before, you know, that haven't done much training. They come in with an injury and they start to do a little bit of exercise, and suddenly they're getting all these aches and pains. But you kind of say, well, you can expect this to happen as long as it doesn't feel completely abnormal or seriously wrong. Then you can expect these little bit of soreness in your muscles, and you know, your lungs to be burning a bit. It's not wrong. It's just listening to your body and understand what it's telling you. It may take them a little bit longer to recover, but at least you can then kind of move on and do more exercise. It's not just boom bust and then that's it for the week. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be fairly low level and build it up. You've got to have a foundation to start from.
Yeah, that kind of brings me on to my sort of next question. Really, is like people are going to read this article on Crohns Colitis UK's website, which is a fantastic website, and you know they do a lot of work in supporting people with our conditions. But like most places, people are going to come to that information and decide to act upon that potentially without understanding what we've just been talking about. So what would you say to someone who is like, if I'm just starting out, what would you say about HiiT training, and what should they particularly focus on if they wanted to start doing something similar to HiiT training?
So someone who's very new to HiiT training and high intensity training, the good thing about it is that it doesn't necessarily, like we said, it doesn't need to involve resistance. It's just basic movements, such as the squat, such as the lunge, such as running. Okay, basic movements. So they're not technically difficult movements. However, what I would say, before you start moving into the HiiT training and start doing kind of maximal effort squats, mass effort lunges and so forth, is get your movements right. Is understand the basics, get the foundation of the movement right. Even if you need some kind of practitioner, such as a not so much a physio, but an exercise therapist such as ourselves, just to explain the movement. There's plenty of good videos, don't be wrong, on YouTube to tell you the dynamics of the movement, to understand, you know, the movement process. Once you get them right, then start building up in repetitions. So say you've got 10 seconds work and 10-second rest. In that first 10 seconds, in the first one that you do, just do 5 reps, 4 reps, see how it feels. The next set, after your recovery, try and do 1 more. The next set. So even though HiiT training is essentially, you know, maximal effort, we've got to understand that we've got to get the basic movements right first, and we build up that way. That's a better way of approaching it, rather than go, right, I've got to smash out as many squats as I can in the first 10 seconds. I've got 10 seconds recovery. The next 10 seconds, I can't do 1. That completely defeats the object. So it's like keeping the consistency, getting the movement right in shorter bursts.
Yeah, I think that's the nail on the head, really. For me, there's a bit of a grey area with HiiT training. Something I've seen with the senior citizens, rehab for senior citizens. We're not strictly saying that people with Crohn's disease or people with chronic illnesses are like pensioners, but if you imagine a pensioner, you're not going to get them to be sprinting, doing 60-meter sprints down the track. But for that individual, doing a 50-meter walk, that could be them at capacity.
Absolutely.
And having a recovery for, let's say they can walk 10 meters in 10 seconds, and then they recover for 10 seconds on a seat, and then walk back 10 seconds. That for them, at a very basic level, is essentially HiiT training. It comes back to what you're saying, like if you can do 5 squats in 10 seconds, then take 10 seconds recovery and do 5 squats in 10 seconds, just adapting it for yourself. You don't have to be doing ridiculousness. You don't need to be going on to like a CrossFit website, and too many people do that, and they look at an elite athlete or some celebrity and think that might be suitable for them, but actually that person's got a personal trainer, a professional plan, and access to a whole lot of different support networks that enable them to perform like that. So it's best, like John said, to your body and gauge it to yourself. My points, if you were just starting out, would be just think about taking it a bit slow. As John already alluded to, your execution of the movement, it's like making sure that you're doing it correctly is going to be the best thing that you could do to start with, and then worry about fitting that into a timed window. Because if you're doing press-ups, for example, if you're doing a press-up wrong, then you're not getting what you should be getting from a press-up. You're getting something else. Same with the squat. If you're not squatting with good technique, you're just not going to get the training crossover effect that a squat's meant to give you. Just having that understanding that you need to move right to get that training effect, and right, you're doing something else. You'll still get a sweat and a burn out of it. And if that's your goal.
So what I would tend to say to a patient is that if you look at kind of 3 levels, first of all is your movement. Understand, get your movement right. If you're not getting that right, don't add in the resistance, because essentially we're building strength on shit form, and that's the last thing we need. So get your movement right first. That's your basic foundation. Once we've got our movements right, we're understanding how our body should move, then we start adding resistance to it. Yeah, so we add the resistance, so we're moving well, and now we're getting stronger. We're adding resistance, we're making it that much harder. Then finally we add the intensity. So when we talk about HiiT, you know, the HiiT training, it's high intensity, but it's not just going straight in that top level. That's basically what you build up to. The intensity is what you build up to. You need your movement right. You start adding resistance, such as body weight, different reps, different, pulses, holds, so forth. Not necessarily just putting loads of weight onto a bar. And then you add the intensity. Then you add the speed, the different time sets. Does that make sense? That's a good way of looking at how to build it up. Not just dive in straight in high intensity, because you haven't built up the pillars below. Those pillars are missing. You haven't got a good foundation.
I think with that, just the exercises that we talked about, you can do all of these at home. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the beauties of it. What about people, generally speaking, just starting to take up exercise? So they've seen this and it's recommending exercise. How would you steer those people?
One of the main things I always say is be consistent, because you've got to enjoy what you're doing. But when you're tired, you're fatigued, it's hard to even kind of get through the day, get through your daily job without thinking about exercise on top of that. But if you just start off very low level, say to yourself, right, today I'm going to do 10 minutes of walking. That could be with your family, that could be out by yourself, that could be in your lunch break, whatever break you're going to take. It's starting somewhere. It's starting exercise. It's not just sitting around, moping around and feeling sorry for yourself. My body's not ready for this. Go and do something. That 10 minutes, the next day, you might think, do you know what? I've got 20 minutes in me, I've got 15 minutes in me, and start building up that way. It's you've got to start somewhere, and it's not, like I said, not just diving straight in the deep end. So whether you're for beginner or you're in remission or whatever you're starting from, it's always start low level and start with that. I know it sounds very naughty and very obvious, but I think too much for us, like you said, is just jump straight in the deep end, and then we just kind of become very demotivated, discouraged. That this is probably not for me. Whereas if you start slow and start building up, you'll see your goals, you'll see your targets, you'll feel better about yourself, you motivate yourself.
And for those that are sort of hit that level, if you're thinking about, right, okay, I'm happy now with exercise, and you're thinking about joining a gym, like visit a gym and make sure you feel comfortable in that environment. You don't need to join straight away. You can get like a free access or whatever. Lots of gyms now will do deals for you where you can go in and you can do a week's sessions, or you might get like a few just like taster sessions, they call them. So just take that time, become comfortable in that environment before you join it. As well as that, like try and sample some classes. Sometimes, especially for people that aren't from a fitness background, classes can be a great way to get you into training and fitness as part of your lifestyle, because you're there with other people. And I'll be honest with you, in those fitness classes, people ain't fit. So, people that are coming from the same sort of backgrounds. And the only thing that I would say with that one is, like, if you're going to take a class and you're a bit concerned about it, in case you get that urge to go to the bathroom suddenly, just make sure or try your best to get as close to the door. And people are quite understanding if you just say to them, look, I've got a bit of an issue, do you mind if I be close to the door? My experience is people are very accommodating.
Yeah.
The biggest one for us with colitis and Crohn's, and if you've got a pouch or a full tract or a stoma, is hydration. We lose a lot of water already just from day to day. So just make sure you've got a water bottle when you're doing fitness training, and just make sure you stay on top of your hydration, because that's a big concern, and it can cause exercising to have a bad effect because you're dehydrated, as opposed to all the positives that could come with it. And I wouldn't want people to miss out on the positives that exercise can bring from something as simple as making sure you drink some water.
Completely agree, yeah. So going into classes and so forth, we just think, well, there's no need to be, some people may feel intimidated, and I think the biggest point to take away when you go to an exercise class is everyone started somewhere. They are just focusing on what they're doing. They're not looking around looking for someone who's kind of not doing what they should be doing, if that makes sense. So just get in there, do what you can, give it a taster session, see how it feels. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but at least you're giving it a go. And like I said, everyone works at their own level. You're not in there to be the best person in that class. That's not what's all about. They're not giving out any special prizes for being the best person in the class. It's all about what you're able to do, how far you're able to push yourself. And knowing, like we said at the beginning, is knowing your body and how far you can push it.
Yeah, and just through figuring out, and one of the things I find interesting is in this the civvy gyms that I've been to, is actually the meatheads are the most approachable guys in there. You get your prima donnas that sit there and pose and strut, and your girls doing their best Kardashian impression. But actually, the meatheads doing the work over at the free weights area are generally the guys that are most willing to talk.
Yeah.
Mostly because they've got long rest periods between their sets.
Yeah.
And also they're very willing to shell out like basic advice.
Yeah.
From my experience, a lot of them are fairly knowledgeable, but the ones that aren't are willing to say that I'm not the most knowledgeable, but this is what I do know. And then the beauty of that, like starting exercise, it just opens up a whole new chapter of so many more opportunities for you. Like you're already lowering, by being active, lowering your risk of getting colon cancer, which is something that we're at an exceptionally higher risk of. If you're able to do your resistance training, so like starting to even just doing walking, a bit of running, you're reducing your risk of osteoporosis, which again is something that we're more susceptible to because of the way the inflammation diseases work. And also just being active, like we said previously, it really does help with your moods and depressions and anxieties. With a disease that can be so debilitating sometimes and certainly embarrassing, just anything that's going to help really makes a big bonus. But yeah, how do you feel about that?
No, I completely agree. Like you said, it's one thing getting your body in shape, but it's another getting your mind in shape. And I think you have to take on board, like I said, whether your exercise is done by yourself or done with your family, it's actually spending time away from the norm, getting out there, doing something you enjoy doing, but actually what is having an effect, not just on your mind, but it's having an effect on your body as well.
If you try HiiT training and it's not for you, if you try the gym and it's not for you, there's lots of different things out there you can do. It's essentially limitless in the world of fitness, because you can make anything, well, essentially anything, apart from eating like McDonald's, you can make that turn into fitness. You know, taking the stairs and work. If you want to just go out, like John's already said, like walking, it's aerobic. That's aerobic exercise at its most basic form. It's low impact and it's unlikely to cause you any side effects for your disease. So if you're at the point of flare up, or you are a little bit worried about incontinence, walking is great. It's also a way to make yourself quite regular. So it gives you targets, and you don't have to be walking far. I'm talking around the block, a few hundred meters, just getting out your front door.
Yeah.
Similarly, cycling a lot of people find easier to do than walking or running with our disease, because again, it reduces the impact. It reduces that up and down motion. But again, it can be utilized for aerobic or anaerobic training. That's working at a low to moderate intensity and working to a high intensity. And you can do that both indoors and outdoors. So if it's crap outside, you can jump on an indoor bike, or if you're a cyclist, you might have a turbo trainer. So there's nothing can really stop that. And then swimming's one of the least stressful fitness sessions that you could potentially do. I mean, you've seen the old ladies with their hair nets on, doing breaststroke up and down, discussing
That's me.
So it's the world is out there. I mean, you've experienced through your time in the military that we started bringing in a lot more sort of yoga and Pilates stuff, particularly at start and end of day. Like, how do you find that? Has that been a benefit for you in returning from surgeries and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the yoga and the mobility, I mean, I've got a fairly good level of mobility, so I was lucky because of my training background previously, that I've always looked after myself in that respect. But the hardest thing I found is obviously the scar tissue and everything feeling so tight on the body. And it's surprising how even the low level yoga stuff, how difficult that is to get into certain positions, and how much strength that takes from the body. But it's not huge impact, so it's a fantastic medium of training, especially for those from early surgery. So actually getting into doing some activity, yoga is fantastic. We do it, like I said, Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and it really does prep me then for moving on to whatever I'm going to be doing next, whether it's resistance training or CV training. It gets the body moving. We're loosening up those structures. We wouldn't normally, we get very restricted by a lot of seated type move, desk jockeys, as we call them. Even when we're in bed at night, everything gets all tight. So by getting a little bit of yoga in the morning makes a big difference. What I would say is I found when I had the pouch, and sometimes you can get the urgency to the toilet. Yoga wasn't always the best place to be when you're trying to get yourself into certain positions. You think, might feel a little bit loose here. So I feel a lot more confident now that I have obviously the colostomy, and that it doesn't pose a problem with a sense of urgency to go to the toilet while I'm stretching. But it's a great medium of training, and I think a lot of people can benefit from it.
You don't need to be an expert. Lots of stuff out there. We in the military kind of use it, like John's just been saying, as a mobility sessions. We'll utilize some of the basic poses and just move through them, but it's stretching with movement, so you're actually just moving through the joints range and then getting the muscles to elongate but under tension. I found it really useful after my surgery in terms of helping to break down scar tissue, return that normal function. I'd have to admit I possibly didn't do it enough where it comes to my sort of abdominal region. I think we've covered quite a bit there, really.
Yeah.
Have you got any takeaways?
Yeah, obviously, so 3 takeaways for me today. Basic understanding, first of all, everyone is different. What I mean by that is that your energy levels, so how you recover, what your training background has been previous to getting back into any training, and how long it takes you to recover. So, like I said, looking at someone else on social media and thinking that that's where you need to be isn't always the best way of approaching it. It's understanding where you were before and where you're actually going to, and then listening to your body. Which brings on the second point, is listening to your body. So get in tune, understand that some days are going to be better than others. Like we said, you can always use a heart rate monitor to really understand what's physiologically going on. And the third point is be consistent. It's not about crash and burn. Not just go 100% in every time, 100% all the time. It's basically build it up nice and slow, but do it consistently. So that's my 3 points.
My takeaway points are echo it, if not compliment it. So again, it's like, just don't overdo it. Just listen to your body. Your body goes through enough already. So just making sure that you look after itself, because your body's amazing and you're amazing. So work with your condition as opposed to against it. So by listening to your body, you're going to be working with your condition. Never be afraid to explore and have fun with it. Again, like I've already said, your body's amazing, and with the right approach, it can adapt to most things.
Yeah.
So by taking it slow and listening to yourself, you can jump onto whatever fitness cycle you feel like you would like to do. And then always make time for cooling down. Out of the whole session, if you make sure that you've got, obviously you need to do the session, but even if you were just to do a cool down and stretch, that can set you up for a whole day. But ensuring when you do your session that you've left that bit of time to make sure you cool down properly, it's going to make that chance of getting DOMs that much less. And if you do get DOMs, it'll be considerably less than what it would be if you didn't do it. And also, if you're feeling that bit better after exercise, there's more chance that you're going to adopt it into part of your lifestyle. I think that the biggest one for me is, like what you said, John, is just listening to your body and making those changes that you need to make, and resting when you need to rest. So that's it. So guys, I really hope you are enjoying our content. What we're trying to do is we're trying to just make it less of a taboo. And I think using technology like this is going to be of a great advantage to all of us. It's good to talk about all this kind of stuff. I think I just broke the chair. So yeah, reach out, talk to us, let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll do our best to get that information to you. Minutes. Do you know what? Our wives cannot complain. They're well looked after.
You're going to get 10 minutes back from me now. She'll be so happy.
If you enjoyed today's episode, just make sure that you subscribe, like the video down below, and if you hit the little bell icon, you'll get updated or whenever we put new content